Most men think they can spot a promiscuous woman from a mile away. The way she dresses, the way she talks, the subtle cues that scream danger. But the reality is far more unsettling. The women who end up hurting you the most rarely look like the ones you expect. They often seem soft, sweet, approachable, even safe, and that's exactly why they slip past your defenses so easily. You're not prepared for the subtle warning signs because they're not obvious. They're hidden behind charm, warmth, and a carefully constructed persona. But once you understand the psychology behind their behavior, everything changes. Underneath that charm lie patterns that predict instability, impulsivity, and emotional chaos with alarming accuracy. If you can't recognize these patterns, you'll confuse dysfunction for connection, excitement for love, and impulsiveness for compatibility. Let's be clear, men don't fall because they're weak. They fall because they want to believe in someone who pretends to be what they're not. You trusted before, not out of ignorance, but because you hoped things would be different. You overlooked small inconsistencies, gave her the benefit of the doubt, dismissed your own intuition, and paid the price with time, energy, and self-respect. This isn't about shame, it's about clarity. By the end of this video, you'll understand 9 unmistakable signs that reveal who she really is long before she has a chance to break your trust. If you value protecting your heart and your future, like this video and subscribe to Hidden Waters. Let's start with the first pattern men almost always miss. She never takes responsibility for her past mistakes. Her history isn't just a story, it's a map of her patterns. When she talks about past relationships, every misstep, every betrayal, every heartbreak is someone else's fault. There's always a villain. He was controlling. He didn't appreciate her. He pushed her to cheat. Notice what's missing? Accountability. She never admits her own role. She's not afraid of being wrong. She's afraid of being exposed. The danger isn't that she's cheated or made mistakes. The danger is that she's learned to turn mistakes into tools to protect her image, manipulate perception, and maintain a sense of innocence. She chooses thrill over stability, impulse over integrity, and escape over honesty. In her world, consequences are optional because the truth is always negotiable, ready to be bent in her favor. Listen carefully not to the drama of her stories but to the pattern. If she rewrites the past to make herself blameless, don't expect her to protect your future. One day, you won't be the man she trusts. You'll be the one she blames. The second sign is a history of impulsive connections, one-night stands, fleeting flings, encounters that were just for fun. This isn't about judging sexual behavior. It's about understanding her approach to intimacy and relationships. A woman who repeatedly seeks instant gratification and novelty isn't just adventurous. She's avoiding something deeper. She's chasing highs, distractions, and temporary relief from boredom, loneliness, insecurity, or responsibility. The pattern is clear: fast bonds, fast detachment. And when she meets you, don't fall into the trap of thinking it's different. You're not chosen because you're special. You're chosen because you were the next available high, the next distraction. Watch how she talks about her past. Does she laugh it off with pride, or does she tense up uncomfortably? Both extremes tell the same story. She hasn't processed it, grown from it, or integrated it into her life meaningfully. If her intimacy has always been impulsive, don't expect you to be the one exception. The third sign is a lack of selectivity in her relationships, moving in short-term cycles from one man to the next. A woman who takes her time choosing usually invests deeply. A woman who jumps too quickly usually loves temporarily, or loves the idea of love more than the substance of it. When she moves rapidly from man to man, what you see isn't romance. It's instability disguised as freedom. Her decisions aren't based on compatibility, values, or integrity. They're based on chemistry, the thrill of being desired, the rush of new attention. The moment the excitement fades, the moment commitment is required instead of spontaneity, she's gone. It's not because you failed her, it's because stability bores her. These patterns aren't surface level. They're deeply ingrained. They show you how she views accountability, intimacy, and emotional investment. Recognizing them early isn't about cynicism, it's about awareness. It's about understanding who she is before you invest too much of yourself. Every story she tells, every flirtation, every impulsive decision carries a signature of her psychology. Miss it, and you'll confuse charm for care, impulsivity for passion, and drama for connection. By paying attention to these signs, you gain more than knowledge, you gain protection. You learn to see beyond the smile, beyond the soft words, beyond the stories crafted to make you fall. You understand the patterns of behavior that indicate whether she's truly capable of loyalty and emotional depth or if she's just skilled at performance. Your time, energy, and heart deserve the clarity these insights provide. And here's the truth. Recognizing these behaviors doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you intelligent. It keeps you from repeating the mistakes of the past. Because once you understand what these signals mean, you'll know not just who she was yesterday, but who she is capable of being tomorrow. And that knowledge, more than anything, is the safeguard your heart and future deserve. But there's a type of woman whose patterns are subtle, yet destructive, and you need to recognize them before they wrap you up in their cycle. She uses connection the way some people use caffeine, to feel alive, validated, and awake, just for a moment. Then she moves on, replacing the effect when it fades. Emotional investment is foreign to her because she's never stayed long enough to develop it. And for men in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, men who finally crave peace instead of chaos, she becomes particularly dangerous. You become her anchor, the steady ground she leans on until she's ready to chase the next thrill. You'll notice the pattern in the way she frames her past relationships. Stories of weeks, maybe a few months at most, ending abruptly. A trail of almosts, nearly there situationships, connections that never take root. Everything is fleeting, sudden, and intensely temporary. That's because commitment demands patience, and patience demands maturity, qualities she hasn't cultivated. Pay attention. A woman who treats relationships like passing seasons will treat you like weather, enjoyable when it suits her, abandoned when it shifts. Truth bomb. If she chooses quickly, she'll leave quickly. When leaving is as effortless as entering, you're not building a future together. You're filling a temporary void. Another clear signal is how she approaches intimacy. If she dives into sexual conversations too early, with intensity that feels unnatural, it's not boldness, it's manipulation. Early sexual talk rushes the connection, clouds your instincts, and gives the illusion of exclusivity before she's even invested in knowing who you are. Healthy flirting is playful, gradual, designed to build chemistry without bypassing trust. What she does is different. It's precise, deliberate, meant to accelerate emotional closeness without earning it. She knows exactly how men respond to that intensity, especially those who've been starved of genuine desire for too long. Imagine sitting across from her. The conversation suddenly shifts. She leans closer, lowers her voice, shares fantasies or intimate past experiences. You feel special, chosen, connected, but in reality, it's rehearsal. She's said these things before, and she knows how easily this kind of talk lures a man into believing there's depth forming. Sexual acceleration is one of the most potent tools of emotional manipulation. When intimacy arrives too soon, you overlook red flags, stop evaluating compatibility, and chase connection that isn't there. Ask yourself, if intensity is her entry, what will she use as the exit? The truth is clear. When sexual closeness comes before emotional honesty, something is being hidden. Closely tied to this is her tendency to blur intimacy with true connection by sleeping with you immediately. There's nothing immoral about two adults acting on chemistry, but the key is recognizing pattern over moment. Quick intimacy often signals impulse rather than desire, a need to feel something fast enough to avoid confronting herself. She isn't choosing you, she's choosing relief from boredom, from loneliness, from the quiet where self-reflection would force her to face herself. When intimacy becomes a shortcut, emotional clarity is optional. From a psychological perspective, rapid sexual involvement often coincides with low impulse control and high emotional projection. She mistakes intensity for alignment, Believing the rush equals authenticity. Men fall into this illusion daily, mistaking the feeling for the person. The real test isn't what happens in the heat of the moment, it's what happens afterward. Does she slow down to explore who you are, or does she rely on the physical to carry the connection? Patterns reveal themselves if you resist letting excitement blind you. Instant intimacy can feel flattering, but it also signals she's operating emotionally, not intentionally. Another sign is her reliance on external validation. Confidence and validation seeking may look similar at first, but the difference is stark. A genuinely confident woman is grounded. She doesn't need constant applause to feel secure. A validation-driven woman performs. Every outfit, gesture, and attitude designed to provoke reaction. Her attention seeking is not expression, it's fuel. She craves the rush of being noticed, desired, approved. That cycle, attention, validation, self-worth, attention, becomes habitual. At first, it may feel magnetic. You think she's bold, liberated, free-spirited, but look closer. If her energy depends on how others perceive her, she isn't showing authenticity, she's showing performance. And for men, that performance can be dangerous. It feels intoxicating while masking instability, impulsivity, and a lack of genuine emotional investment. The patterns are consistent. Rapid entry into intimacy, fleeing from commitment, chasing validation, these aren't isolated traits. They're intertwined behaviors that reveal a woman who values stimulation over substance and thrill over true connection. Recognizing these signs isn't about cynicism, it's about self-preservation. It's about seeing beyond charm, beyond stories, beyond fleeting chemistry, and understanding whether the woman you're with is capable of loyalty, depth, and emotional consistency. When you learn to read these cues, you protect not only your heart, but your time, energy, and sense of self-respect. Understanding these behaviors doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you aware. It allows you to distinguish between the woman who is genuinely capable of a shared future and the one who's repeating patterns that leave men emotionally spent and disconnected. Every action, every story, every shift in attention is a window into her psychological framework. Miss these signals, and you'll mistake performance for authenticity, impulsivity for passion, and distraction for connection. But when you see clearly, you reclaim the power to choose wisely, and that clarity is the most powerful safeguard you can have. Yet, there's a type of woman whose patterns run deeper than surface-level charm, whose behaviors are subtle but profoundly telling. Behind her "I don't care" persona is a harder truth. She thrives on the world's attention because it fuels her sense of existence. One man can never satisfy that need, not because she intends to hurt, but because her identity is anchored in external validation. She'll tell you she's just being herself, but watch closely. Her authenticity only emerges when someone is watching. And here's the reality you need to grasp. A woman who performs for the crowd will never truly belong to one man. If her confidence is staged, her loyalty will follow suit. The seventh sign of this type of woman is the way she uses clothing and social media to communicate. Her wardrobe isn't just about fashion, and her posts aren't just casual snapshots, they're signals. They reveal whether she sees herself as a committed partner or as a commodity in a marketplace of attention. When a woman dresses provocatively only in specific situations, nights out, events dominated by male attention, trips with friends, she's sending a message: I want to be chosen. Her clothing isn't expression, it's positioning. A woman grounded in self-worth doesn't need to broadcast availability. She doesn't seek eyes on her to measure her relevance. But a woman dependent on validation does. She competes against other women, against expectations, against anyone who might not notice her enough. The digital side of this behavior is even more revealing. Carefully curated posts, seductive photos, angles calculated to draw desire, they're not random. They're branding. And when you consistently notice she leaves you out of her online world, it's telling. If her social media portrays her as single or unavailable to you, she's signaling she wants the world to treat her that way. Men fall into the trap of believing it's harmless. She's just having fun, just confident, just expressing herself. But the truth is simple. You cannot claim exclusivity while projecting availability. One cancels out the other. If her digital life excludes you, you're not part of the reality she's building. She's not preparing to commit. She's keeping her options open. The eighth sign is how she flirts in front of you or seeks attention subtly. Loyalty isn't tested in private moments, it's measured in public ones. When she lights up around other men, even while you're present, it's not friendliness, it's testing. She's measuring how much you'll tolerate, how far she can push boundaries without losing control, and how tightly she can maintain power in the dynamic. Flirting comes in two forms. The first is obvious: leaning in, playful touching, exaggerated laughter at another man's jokes. The second is more insidious: subtle glances, small shifts in posture to remain in someone else's line of sight, soft smiles, accidental hair touches. These micro moments are signals she won't verbalize. She needs to know other men still desire her. And when validation becomes a currency, no amount of commitment from you will ever feel sufficient. She will always leave the door cracked for outside attention. Women don't test boundaries to make you jealous. They test them to gauge tolerance. The truth bomb. A woman who craves every man's attention isn't ready to give her focus to just one. Flirting in your presence is less about connection and more about maintaining an audience. Finally, the ninth sign is her relationship with her phone. A woman who guards it as though it contains a secret world is often protecting exactly that: a second life. A phone doesn't just hold messages, it holds patterns, habits, secrets, and the version of herself she doesn't want you to meet. Hyperprotection, angling the screen, flipping it face down, panicking at notifications, locking it with intricate passwords, signals more than privacy. It signals distance, walls built before you even arrived. Transparency isn't giving up passwords, it's living a life where secrecy isn't necessary. Secrecy, on the other hand, is a quiet indicator of parallel lives: deleted conversations, hidden contacts, attention collected out of your sight. That subtle gut instinct you feel, the fleeting doubt, the nagging sense that something is off, that isn't paranoia. It's your mind recognizing patterns it hasn't yet articulated. You'll notice small signs. Her eyes flick to the phone at the wrong moment, her energy shifts when a message arrives, she steps away briefly without explanation. You can't prove anything, and that's exactly why your intuition nags at you. A woman who protects her phone more than she nurtures the relationship is already emotionally divided. That's the truth bomb you can't ignore. When digital secrecy outweighs transparency in the connection, the relationship has already started to end. When you put all of these pieces together, the performance-driven confidence, the strategic presentation of self in clothing and social media, the subtle and overt flirting, the instant intimacy, and the digital walls, you see a clear pattern. These behaviors aren't isolated quirks. They're consistent signals that reveal how she operates in relationships, how she values attention over commitment, thrill over stability, and perception over partnership. Recognizing them isn't about suspicion or cynicism. It's about clarity, protection, and making informed choices before investing your heart and energy. Understanding these 9 signs gives you more than insight. It gives you the ability to see the truth before it's obscured by charm, flattery, or fleeting chemistry. It allows you to distinguish between genuine connection and performance, between loyalty and rehearsal, between emotional investment and distraction. And when you see clearly, you reclaim the power to choose the kind of woman whose presence enriches your life rather than drains it. That clarity isn't just knowledge, it's the safeguard your heart and your future deserve. But there's one final truth you need to understand. Digital secrecy is never random. It's intentional, calculated, and always a reflection of emotional dishonesty. When you step back and take in all 9 signs, a pattern emerges. No single behavior defines a woman, but her patterns do. A revealing outfit alone doesn't make her promiscuous. A guarded phone doesn't automatically mean betrayal. A fast connection doesn't guarantee instability. What matters is when these behaviors stack, repeat, and echo across different situations. that's when you're no longer witnessing coincidence. You're seeing a blueprint. Men lose themselves not because they encounter the wrong women, but because they refuse to acknowledge the truth in front of them. They hope she'll change, hope her past won't repeat, hope they'll be the exception. But hope is not strategy. It's not protection. A mature man doesn't fear a woman with history, he fears a woman who hasn't learned from it. One who's still driven by impulse, still chasing attention, still hiding parts of herself she doesn't want examined. One whose patterns speak louder than promises. So here's what matters. Don't seek perfection. Look for consistency. Consistency reveals self-awareness. Consistency reveals maturity. And most importantly, consistency shows whether a woman is truly ready for something real or simply repeating the same story with a new face. If you want sharper instincts, stronger boundaries, and a level of self-respect no one can manipulate, subscribe now. Stay alert, stay grounded, and honor your value, because the more you do, the harder it becomes for anyone to take advantage of it.